everyone. So a couple of weeks ago we looked at an overview of both layouts. The next thing I'm going to do a video on is all the stock that I've got, starting with the locomotives and looking at what kind of modifications I've made to them, what kind of details I've added, enhancements, couplings, all that kind of thing. And then we'll do the same for coaching stock and wagons and things like that. Then after that, I think I'll probably look at how I film and edit the videos and add the sounds and all that kind of thing. So hopefully by the end of it, you'll have like an overview of not just the layout, but everything that goes with it as well. So I'm going to break these videos down by doing different groups of locomotives basically. So I'm going to start with BR standards, and I'll do one on LMS locomotives, one on LNR, one on Southern, and one on Great Western, I think. So starting with the BR standards, the first one we're going to look at isn't really BR standard. It's a War Department locomotive built from the Second World War, but it kind of falls into that category, I guess. So this is a Bachmann engine. It's pretty good. It's got a couple of quirks, I guess, but overall it is pretty solid, to be honest. So starting with the modifications I've made to this one, the first thing is, and you'll notice this on loads of the locomotives we look at, I always hack the moulded smoke box dart off and stick a brass one on as well. That makes a really big difference to the front. Next is the cab. I've taken the crew out just to make it a bit easier to see, but I've added a couple of cab doors just to reduce the gap between the locomotive and the tender, and I've also added a cab floor in there as well, just to get rid of the daylight between the two, and that makes quite a big difference. And then of course I've added some real coal in the tender, and then of course I've weathered this as well. And with these War Department locomotives, you literally cannot overdo the weathering. If you look at the pictures of these back in the day, it's not possible for them to get any dirtier than what they did. They were so neglected and not cared for at all by the late 50s and earlier mid 1960s. So I'll put up a couple of pictures of a few that I've seen. So moving on to running, it's fairly good, to be honest. This is it, kind of crawling along fairly slowly. It is moving, although it's kind of hard to tell. It does have a tender to locomotive connection, but there aren't any pickups in the tender. I think that's just for DCC operation. One thing that I noticed with loads of kind of Bachmann locos from this kind of era is, if you look at the valve gear, can you see it kind of drops halfway around the rotation? Had the exact same thing on my Bachmann 9F, and I think that's just them wearing out over time. And on the 9F, I only ever had it on I only ever ran it in one direction around the layout, and I only got that wear on the inside wheels, the wheels that always went around the inside curve. So I guess it's something to do with that. So it's something to be aware of. If you do have like relatively tighter curves on your layout, you might have this same issue. I see it on loads of people's versions of these, but again, if you're running the locomotive quite quickly, you can't really notice that, to be honest. And then finally on this one, I've just switched out the tension lock couplings for some American KD couplings as well. They're a little bit less intrusive. I'm actually missing the front coupling on that. But overall, you know, it's a really good locomotive if you're looking to get one. Solid puller, decent runner really, and it just looks the part. Next up, we've got the British Railways Standard Class 4 tank engine. It's one of my favourites, I think. Don't know what it is about them. I just think they look cool. So this one's another Bachmann model like before. It's pretty solid, it's heavy, looks the part, great puller, and a fairly decent runner as well. So again, in terms of modifications to this one, I've got the replacement smoke box door dart on there. Just cut the other one off with a Stanley knife or something. Got the KD couplings. Again, I've got a Model U 3D printed lamp on the top there. And then this one I've given a bit of a kind of shiny finish. And kind of kept the weathering around the pipe work and the areas where it's a bit harder to access. And then other than that, I think that's all the detail I've added to this one. A bit of real coal in the bunker, crew. I think that's about it. But yeah, I'd absolutely recommend one of these if you're looking for a BR standard tank engine. The only other thing to note, I think, is these, they're not keen on tight curves. Mine slows down a bit when it goes around anything close to third radius, I guess. So it's something to bear in mind, you know, if you've got sharp curves on your layout. If you've got anything, you know, third radius or wide, I don't think you'll have a problem. Next up is the same locomotive, but the tender engine version. So this is the British Railways Standard Class 4 260. So I absolutely love these. I don't know what it is about them. I think they just look the part. I think they kind of look a bit American, you know, a bit German with the high running play and just all the pipes and you know, stuff on the outside just look very utilitarian in appearance. So in terms of detail added to this one, I haven't done a whole lot, to be honest, because the smoke box dart was already separately fitted, so that's fine. I stuck a crew in there, added some coal, and then replaced the couplings. That's about it, really. In terms of running, it's pretty solid, to be honest. Can't really think of many drawbacks on this one. Mine's pretty powerful, you know, it runs pretty well. Yeah, good all-rounder, this one. It looks the part as well. Really like this. Next up is the British Railways Standard Class 4 again, but this time it's the 460 wheel arrangement version. Again, this is another one that I really like. And this is a Hornby version. Both Hornby and Bachmann make these. I think, to be honest, the Hornby one perhaps just edges it. But I think they're both pretty good, to be honest. So with this engine, I have replaced the smoke box dart. I think the other one just fell off, or I just fancied changing it. Added a lamp on there, changed the couplings. I think that's about it again on this one. Put some real coal in the tender and added a crew. I've owned two of these in the past. One had a great motor but a dodgy mechanism. This one had a dodgy motor but a great mechanism. So I took the motor out of one, put it on this one, which gave me a model with a great mechanism and a great motor. There we go. Great runner, this one as well, really good. Next up is the British Railways Standard Class 5. This is another one that I just love the look of. I don't know what it is about it. Again, I think it's that kind of classic British engine, kind of mixed with American and European as well. It's just something about it that looks really cool. Again, this is a Bachmann model. Originally it was had a different body on there and a different tender, and I ended up changing it to 730/50, which is the engine that's preserved on the Nene Valley Railway in Peterborough. So it's pretty good considering it's a 15 to 20 year old tooling and design now. It does still hold up, I think, pretty well. I think you just need to slice off that moulded smoke box door dart again and stick a new one on. That makes a big difference. I think that's about all I've done to this one. I had to cut the cylinder drain cocks a little bit because they were causing the front wheels to derail. That was pretty straightforward. Kind of glossed this one a bit to get it looking quite clean. And then we've got quite a low amount of coal in the tender, made it quite rusty in there. And then we've got the two express lamps on the front. So you can get these second hand for about 60, 70 pounds, I think, at the minute. The new ones, I think, are the exact same model. They're like 180 pounds or something, so just get a second hand one, I reckon. And again, like the others, mine's a good solid runner as well. The only thing I noticed with this one is it's quite hard to pick it up on the video, is it does rock from side to side very slightly. But you'd have to be very perceptive to pick that up. And it only really seems to do it when it's got a heavy load behind it as well. And then last but not least for the BR standards is the British Railways Standard Class 7. So this one's another Hornby model, and it's great as well. The detail on it is crazy. It runs really, really well. I know a few people have had ones that haven't, but it just depends on whether you get a dud or not. I think if it's rubbish, send it back, and you'll probably, well, eventually you'll get one that works as it should, I think. So in terms of modifications to this, the gap between the locomotive and tender was a bit too big, really. So I've just added like a bit of a cover there on top of the tenders. You can see just kind of close that gap a bit. I think that's just made out of plasticard. Stuck some coal in the tender as well. Changed the coupling. And I think that's it really. Again, I've tried to make this look like it was pretty dirty and has had a bit of a polish, but there's still quite a lot of muck on the underframe and around the tops. Like, I mean, by the 60s, these were still painted green, but they might as well have been black. You couldn't really tell that they were green. And then we've got the crew in there as well. The only other modification I made is that I got some etched nameplates for mine and named it after my late grandfather. So in terms of running, again, pretty solid to be honest. Mine did take quite a lot of running in though, to be honest, to kind of loosen up and start running well. But yeah, another one that I'm really pleased with. So in terms of other BR standards that I probably look to get is 2 new ones from Hornby. They've got the standard class 2 coming out, I think around Christmas, and then they've also got a new standard class 9F coming out as well that looks really, really good. Both quite expensive, but yeah, if these are your favourite locomotives, you've got to get them really. So I hope that was useful. If you're looking at thinking of getting one of these, it might just give you a bit of an overview of what you can expect and how they perform and what you can do to them to improve them a bit. And I think the next one of these we'll probably look at LMS locomotives, which I've got a fair few of. So yeah, cheers for watching guys, thanks, bye.